Mr. Kellogg's alleged violation of district policy, review and consider complaint filed concerning alleged violation of district policy. Manager Barber, please.
Well, I've given you all of the salient points in my memo, so I'm not going to go over those again. I do have something else I need to add or discuss, and then Director Kellogg can respond. I was informed this morning that he came upon the job site and instructed our subcontractor or contractor, Frank's Heating and Air, to wear hard hats. Well, yes, it's true, my staff was confused. They felt that's a contractor, that's their responsibility, but it is our project, and I clarified that with them. But I don't think it's appropriate for a director to be giving instructions to any contractor of PID, any employee of PID, or anything like that. So
I didn't instruct anybody to wear a hard hat. I asked him why he wasn't wearing a hard hat,
okay.
and he told me. And that's all, and I thanked him and left. I don't instruct anybody to do anything. And that's been my policy for years, and I did not do that.
Okay, so Director Kellogg has asked me for about 7 or 8 minutes. We wanted to address these issues. There's already that on now.
Look out. I'm gonna turn the fan off.
Where's your safety vest still?
No, I don't have a safety. I didn't have. I'm a member of PID Board, Division 2. I've been elected to it as a public servant. At no time was I attempting to derogatory things about the district. I went out to look at the yard like I usually look at the yard. In fact, I was trying to not interact with anybody because I didn't want to disturb their work. So I walked around and saw the landscaping first, and I looked at the ditch, and I found that the culvert, which has been plugged now for almost 2 months, is plugged underneath the road. And water has overflown and done some damage to the ditch. And I found where you could possibly climb over the fence without much difficulty if you wanted to trespass. I went around, and then I went to the yard, and I walked into the yard, and I saw Jim Madrini working with 2 men and giving them instructions, and I said, "Hi, Jim," and I looked in the building and saw what I needed to see, turned around and walked out. Then I walked over toward the other building that comes in on a T, looked at some things there, and then Jim said to me, "Bill, I've got extra hard hats and you want a hard hat?" And I said, "No, I'm only going to be here for a few more minutes." He says, "Well, I'll give you a hard hat." And he was about 100 feet away from me, and I said, "No, it's not necessary." And I kept walking. And I walked out of there, and then I walked over here, talked to Mickey, who was having a smoke break, and then I went in the office and talked to Georgianne and Kevin, and then left. I was not aware of the kind of things. I've never received that I know of a thing describing the regulations on hard hats. We've talked about it, but I hadn't seen anything. So the following Monday, after I received the agenda and didn't know for the life of me what that was all about, and I couldn't get a hold of Georgiana right away, and it was getting to be 3:30. So on Friday, I drove up to the office and broke my routine and my work and got up my whole packet and saw in there this reported allegation. And I told him, I said, I don't know whether to laugh or take it serious. Anyway, so come Monday, I went over to Ace Hardware and I bought this expensive hard hat, $8. And I went up to the yard, looked around. There was nobody for me to talk to at that time. I wanted to talk to Ladrini especially, and he wasn't here. So I came, I had my picture taken next to a dump truck. And I came just to prove I was there with a hard hat on. Then I came down to the office, still wearing a hard hat, and talked to George, and we went in his office and had a little visit. And I sort of apologized to George for causing the problem, but I don't know if he considers it an apology or not. Then I noticed Ladrini had driven into the yard. So I talked to Jim and I said, and apologized to him, and I also asked him the questions, what's this anonymity business about hiding employees? And he says, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, well, come over and I'll show you the whole packet here, and you can see. And he says, well, the part I'm quoted about, what do you think of that? And I said, looks fine to me. I said, there might be a little things in it that might be different. But I apologized to Jim for not wearing a hard hat and following the rules. I noticed there was one vendor there going over some siding or some flashing or something. He wasn't wearing a hard hat. So somebody told me that the yard had to be posted for OSHA requirements to wear a hard hat. So this morning, after Toastmasters, I came up to the yard and looked around, and here comes, I don't know his name exactly, but the fellows in charge, Frank's, doing the thing, and I said, well, where's your hard hat? And he says, not, this job isn't posted. He says, I don't have to wear a hard hat. He said, there's no sign up. And he said, this is standard procedure. And I said, well, thank you very much. I'll be sure to relay this on to other people, which I'm doing now. So, and then I thought about it, and I thought, and I've been told by other people that this is not an OSHA requirement, it is a district requirement, and I apologize for breaking it. And I will wear my expensive hard hat, I have already, when I come into the yard. That's what it takes to continue to do what I do, and looking into things at different times. I've always done that regardless of what board I'm serving on. The humor of it is, I think, are we protecting ourselves against pine cones, possibly a meter coming down? It's a tempest in a teapot. I do not understand this thing. I saw the crew on the servicing work on Skyway all wearing hard hats, and I thought, well, what's going to fall on them to need a hard hat? But this is, my opinion. That's not what the rules are for this district. So, was the yard signed? No. So all our vendors coming on the project don't have to wear a hard hat. The employees all have to wear hard hats, and since I'm considered an employee, I have to wear a hard hat. So I just asked why our requirements are more serious than OSHA. What will I do? I will apologize to each and one of you directors for violating the district policy for not wearing a hard hat. And I'll apologize, since the reporter's there, and I hope he puts it in the paper, to the community as a whole for not wearing a hard hat at the yard for all of 5-10 minutes after I talked to Ladrini and left. And I asked him if I could use his name, and that was no problem. So, and I got on fine with him, and I apologized to him for this. And I told him I was going to wear a hard hat tonight to the meeting. So, the whole thing is sort of, I'll go back over, a tempest in a teapot. It's a policy thing, and I've never, to my memory, have ever seen a copy of the district policy on wearing hard hats.
Thank you, Bill. I do know that back in January, or maybe December or January, I want to say it's January, when I talked about if any director does want to go over to the corporate yard and see it, that I requested them at that point to come to the district office, get a hard hat, be escorted over to the job site, or they would call over and when Ladrini or somebody would come over and escort you around the job site. I do remember saying that back in, like I said, I think it was January.
Yeah, I remember you saying it too.
Because you got a hard hat from your son-in-law,
And
brought it all the way and brought it to the next meeting and said, I don't want you to be mad at me, so I got a hard hat from my son-in-law. So
Right, but
I just
the
want,
thing is that I've never been escorted to a job on any board I've been on when I go and look at the thing. Part of the advantage I have is simply going out where nobody's prepared to see me. I see work as it's done, as people react, and what the situation is. And that is the way I'd rather be, as unexpected. And I don't really need somebody to escort me on a job site. I have sense enough to stay away from where the men are working, physically working, and that's what I was trying to do that day. And I had all the way through the time I was out there, so I didn't interrupt their work schedule. I was no hazard to anybody, and as far as I'm concerned, no hazard for anything falling on me or anything else. But, and I think that's the right of any director on this board. As long as you do not tell somebody what to do, I think you're within the rules of the ground. So I never tell anybody what to do. I may say, like, geez, this thing, the plants were real dry one time out in the yard. So the guys were on a break, and I said, geez, the plants are real dry, and something should be done about it. And that was the extent of my comment. And the fellow was in charge, had the guys, one guy go out and water the plants. They didn't realize they were that wrong. They haven't been planted. That's about the extent of me ever coming up with a suggestion. I know what the rules are. I don't tell somebody to move a shovel, a piece of equipment, or do anything. And I inspect. And the inspections come back to you, as I did earlier tonight. One of the reasons I explained about things under the George's report is you can see or hear the results of my inspection of the yard.
Much of our discussion on this, but I've served as a safety officer in more than one job. And if you have a hard hat area, every entryway should be posted that you're entering a hard hat area. And I've done this other places, but down at Butte, for all these new buildings they just finished, I mean, they had some signs there 4 feet by 4 feet, on a big print. And they really kept anybody out of it that didn't have work.
I don't know if that's district policy
It
though.
might not be required, but it would sure be a good idea.
Well, if you get a sign of there, and you don't have a hard hat on, all that we do as directors, because earlier we talked about that, and Bill's aware of that, you've got to have it posted, and some places now are putting it in Spanish, like they do so much of the stuff now. So we really want it to be legal. Every entryway that we have should have a sign on it, I would think, George. If you really want to enforce, except for our employees, now we can, any of us are all employees, we can enforce that, but to really have a modified hard hat area, we should be posted, every entryway. I imagine you have, while we're talking safety, once a week you have a tailgate, what we call a tailgate safety session, or whenever it's necessary, but at least once a week or something.
Every Monday morning,
Everybody
there's a
going.
safety meeting.
That's all documented. Did the employees sign off on that?
We take attendance.
Yeah,
We do one every Monday, and then every morning, each crew leader has a quick.
Yeah. A couple of the cases that I've been involved with, that's another expert witnessing, you're better off if you have them sign. Even if they may be sleeping or whatever, But if you have them sign, you've got it right there. I think you agree with that. Maybe you wouldn't.
I haven't considered it, I don't know.
That's a safe way to do it.
Okay, so in moving forward on this, it says action may be taken. Are we taking any action?
It's like 2 counts.
Does any director have? Lauren, you got a comment?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. I too worked on a lot of jobs. You should have had a sign up there if you wanted everybody to put on a hard hat, that's first. And Bill, you probably should have put on one if you knew the rest of the company did. But from the public standpoint, I appreciate that you guys, you're elected by us. I want you to make surprise visits on jobs, because I go to a restaurant every day and they know when the inspector's coming to inspect the food quality in the building. And believe me, that day gets special treatment. Every time, every single time. So the fact that you gentlemen go there without notice is a good thing, not a bad thing from the public standpoint. But the only other thing I'd like to add is I just wish you guys would all hug and make up, because this looks bad for the public. It just looks like there's I don't think we've ever got over the raise yet. I don't think we've ever got over that, and it don't look like it to me. So I just like to see you guys all have a moment.
You weren't here before, there was some friction before, long before the race.
Well, I'd like to bring down a barbecue and roast up some hot dogs and stuff, and you guys could all have a beer and be
Hot
friends.
dogs?
But yeah,
We want to try
if it's my money, if it's your money, we'll roast steaks. But if it's my money, it's hot dogs.
Okay,
Thank you.
Is there any director that has any desire to proceed with any action?
I think we've done, I feel we've done,
I just want to make sure we're all in the safety training, and that's, as long as we're doing that, then I'm okay. I appreciate that you, what you said, Bill, I appreciate that you apologized to everybody, but I won't say that's an excuse for not wearing a hard hat when they asked you.
No, I
But-
don't think it's
but
an excuse
I
either.
appreciate that you apologized to everybody. If nobody has anything else to say, then we're gonna move forward.
I'll say something, Bill, I like what you said about you'll follow policy. You know, once you understand it, you'll live with it and follow it. And I think that's what carries the most weight with me, whether it was a mistake or whether you were being fussy or whatever, happened. As long as you're making a commitment and saying, if this is policy, wear hard hats, or you want steel-toe shoes, or whatever I have to do, and if it's for all the directors and all the employees, then we'll just live with it. And I appreciate that attitude. I think that's the right attitude to take.
Thank you.
I agree with Ken on that too, Bill. It's good to be able to say you're apologetic, and I know that the people feel that way. And you're just trying to do your job, and you're arguing your job, and the citizens in the community feel that way. And so, sometimes, as we're mentioning, George, we're walking a fine line, because of the fact that, so we say a little something about maybe the plants are dry or like that, they may take it the wrong way or something like that, But,
That's the only comment I made to anybody in probably 2 years. So, normally I just walk through, try not to talk to anybody, disturb anybody, and stay out of areas where somebody's working, there's danger, or could be danger. And where I went, there was no danger.
well, I haven't got out because of commitments that I've got, but I've been trying to get with Keith and other people and Greg, and I've always, they either call George and tell me that I don't go to do that, or Kevin if George is not there, and just let them know. They've already given me permission to do that anytime I need to or want to.
I know you said the training wasn't available the second time we were there, but if you see him on the job site, I think it'd be appropriate to go over to him, say, Jim, I want to walk around this side of the yard, or go look at this building over here. Is that okay with you? Get his approval on it, because he's in charge of that job site up there.
Yeah, he should be able
And
to
he should be
clarify
aware.
what areas are
I'm going
safe
to
and
be
what
just the way I am, unless it's set in that policy manual, okay? There's no need for that.
Okay, let's move on to ADAP. Apparently, we're not gonna be able to go forward. So, ADAP, vehicle identification decals. Review and discussion concerning a policy regarding identification decals for all district vehicles. Director Kellogg.
I would like to get this taken care of simply because it bugs me. I think all the vehicles that belong to the PID should have PID permanent decals. George has a PID vehicle, it's a very nice pickup and everything, and he's told me that he's put magnetic signs on the side. I've never seen a magnetic sign on the truck. In the yard or on work and so forth. So, and that's exactly what it's aimed at. All other vehicles as I know of, or everything else has a district decal on it. And I think it'd be appropriate that George had one. He could have just a circle that says Paradise Irrigation District. But it should be plain to our customers and to everybody else who owns the pickup. If he doesn't want to have a company pickup, he had his own private truck before, and he could do what he wanted with it. But this one belongs to the district. So I would like a vote from the board on it, and then, and I expect actually to lose, but I just want to get it on the record, and then I'll go away and I won't bring it up anymore. But it just buggers the devil out of me, because I don't think this is a good policy for the district, for the vehicles involved, and that's it.
Are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion that all district vehicles have permanent decals on the side showing that they belong to the district.
I'm waiting for a second, otherwise the motion's gonna
Just to
die.
get a vote, he wants to vote on it, I'll second it.
Lauren made a comment.
Yes, thank you. I thought we just had this conversation. If it's company policy, they'll all do it. Bill will wear a hard hat now. And, because that's company policy, we don't make an exemption for him. We shouldn't make an exemption for any one of our vehicles.
You just said this is company policy, it's not.
It's not company policy.
Then you don't need to put them on the rest of them. You just, anybody who doesn't want to have one, don't have to have
That's
one.
what he's saying is to make policy.
He wants to make policy.
He wants everybody to have a decal on their vehicle.
We do have them on everything, don't we?
What we're saying here is we want George to have a decal on his vehicle.
Because it's a company vehicle. It's the only one that don't.
We've had some problems in the past, I will express, in the past, when we had some issues going on. We had and I don't want to say it was a utility worker, or I don't think he was even a supervisor, a utility worker that was accosted with his family, I forget what restaurant it was, downtown. And this was just maybe a year and a half ago that this happened. And he was accosted by a gentleman and said, "That's your vehicle, I see you're a PID worker, and he just wanted to go into the whole, whatever chip was on his shoulder, he wanted to take it up right there in the dinner house. And I think it was expressed to him by the PID employee that it's not like the appropriate venue for us to be doing this. George shares a unique position, I believe. He shouldn't have to advertise, "Hey, I'm driving down the road, and I'm in PID." We all know, and I think it has been presented numerous times to the public, that we provide a vehicle for George. If nobody knows it by now, it is an F-150 quad cab, it's four-wheel drive, it's white, it has gray interior, it might even have an AM/FM with a CD player in it.
It has a radio on
It
it.
has a radio that George bought. But for it to be marked fully all the time, when George is on district business or an emergency, those decals are on, I guarantee it. But for it to have to be.
the decals on it?
I've actually seen the decals 4 or 5 times on it.
Oh,
So it's not something that, but as far as when he's out in public, because it is a vehicle that he drives, I'm gonna leave that to his discretion as to, and that'll be the way that I vote. I'll tell you straight up front,
I would say that there are instances where we do not want him to have the decal on it.
absolutely.
Tonight, George is putting in an additional 5 or maybe 6 hours, maybe 7, depending upon when we end up here. And as the manager, George has our permission and the latitude to get the job done in the hours that he deems are appropriate, whether it's Monday or Saturday or Tuesday night or a holiday. He's expected to get the job done, and George will take some time off when he can to compensate for those issues. And when that happens, if George decided that he wanted to go down to Costco on a Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. and do some personal grocery shopping and bringing it out to his house while that car is parked in the Costco parking lot, do we want to incite people to look at this and say, "Oh, there, what's a PID guy doing in here in Costco?" Or if it's at the golf course, or if it's at a restaurant, or whatever the case may be. It's just unwarranted visibility that would perhaps require continuous explanation, and people aren't really interested in the reasons anyhow. It's just, it's there, this is the time you should be working at the office, so it must be wrong. And I think that we can eliminate a lot of those issues by not having decals at those times, and then at other times it's appropriate. That's my opinion.
As we do have decals, if it was an emergency, I would expect a decal on it so that people know. We just like, it's a police car, it's a fire truck, it's an ambulance, there's a PID vehicle in the middle of an emergency.
Well, they have one
Where
part.
do you let them know? I don't know where you let my toolbox.
Yeah, so.
Actually, us furnishing you the rig, and I think we proved it, in fact, I think Bill was also mentioning it, you're saving the district money.
That was a
And
cost.
how much do you pay, I can't think of the name of the tax. You pay the state tax.
Imputed income tax. I
Say
pay
that
that. Imputed income
Imputed
tax.
tax, I can tell you
And
that.
I pay $100 a month for fuel.
You know,
And I don't.
but you realize,
Personally.
I don't know, I know.
before we get down on
I
the
might
map
be
wrestling,
that one.
before we get down on the map wrestling this, that is a
better now?
Because I put $100 of fuel in mine today, you know, and if I make it to the next week, that'll be fantastic. A couple of trips will be up to the lake. But anyway, so I have no problem with
I'm gonna call for a vote.
it. Oh,
Read the motion out.
wait, are you gonna call a roll call?
Yeah.
Yes.
Director Hunt suggested, Georgetta, that you start a thing once in a while.
Either way, I don't think,
That was
either
his
way, I don't think
suggestion.
it matters. Since I'm president, I'm gonna say, just start the way you have it. Roll call vote,
That's a
please.
hell of a poor president, when you say that.
I got the vote on this.
I want to stay.
Stay.
How's that?
Director Hunt?
What was the motion?
Director Kellogg moved that all district vehicles have permanent decals on the side showing they belong to the community.
Thank you. No.
Oh, sorry. Director Kellogg?
To you again.
Yes.
Director Duncan?
No.
President Corolla?
So I just proved to the public, even with half a dozen up here, I'm a coward to vote.
8G, unless, if I started at the other end, would it change your vote?
Not a bit.
Okay.